The gods be damned. It was a hollow victory they gave me, a crown. It was a girl I prayed them for, your sister safe, and mine again, as she was meant to be. I ask you, Ned, what good is it to wear a crown? The gods mock the prayers of kings and cowherds alike. Robert Baratheon to Eddard Stark. A Game of Thrones Chapter 12, Eddard 2. Just like there are several moments you can define as the start of Robert's rebellion against House Targaryen, there are too several events that could be used to mark its endpoint. Most cannot deny that Robert's rebellion was effectively won by the rebels the moment Robert Baratheon slew Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident. But the most popular endpoint is the death of King Aerys II during the sack of King's Landing. While this does make a lot of sense, there were still many key events to happen after Aerys' death that too could be used as an endpoint. The Siege of Storm's End, the assault on Dragonstone, the Tower of Joy, all could be used as a definitive end. But for the sake of the story we are telling, we will take a look at the last few acts that could be seen as part of Robert's rebellion and the start of the reign of King Robert Baratheon. With Robert's rule in the Seven Kingdoms mostly uncontested after the assault on Dragonstone, the fact that two Targaryens still lived would be a thorn in the side of Robert for the whole of his reign. All the time Viserys and Daenerys lived, they could become a banner for the king's enemies to rally to. Assassins would pursue the children for the rest of their lives in Essos. But for Robert, the Targaryens were out of sight, and for the most part out of mind, as he looked now to consolidate his own power. By right, just like Aegon the Conqueror had once done, King Robert could acclaim the throne of Westeros via right of conquest. But at the end of the day, the king is the man with the strength to hold the power. While in some respects Robert did do this, he also called upon his own claim to the throne via Targaryen blood. Given how small the Targaryen royal family had become after the tragedy at Summerhall, Robert Baratheon was already high upon the line of succession, perhaps even as high as fifth in line at the start of the rebellion, via his grandmother, Rhaella Targaryen, one of the daughters of King Aegon V. So even without the right of conquest, with near on all of House Targaryen now dead, his claim via blood was also much stronger than any of the other lords around him. And while this was the case made in the wake of the Mad King's demise, in truth we cannot say how much of this outcome was foresawn, and when the rebels decided they would be able to crown Robert, rather than say using a young Viserys or the babe Prince Aegon as a puppet to rule through. While this uncertainty in regards to motive does bother many scholars, in the end it has very little to do with the outcome of the war. Even before the war, Robert Baratheon was known as a man who was forgiving towards his enemies, who showed him respect and fought with honour. Now, as king, when assembling his court, he did the same. Robert named his foster father, Lord Jon Arryn, the man who stood firm against King Aerys II at the start of the war, as his hand in the king. Given his close relationship with Robert and the key role Jon played in bringing the great alliance of houses together against the Targaryens, his naming of hand made sense to many. However, his age was a concern to some, especially given the current uncertain succession of the Eyrie, with Jon currently childless and his obvious heirs dying during the rebellion. Stannis, his middle brother, was rewarded for holding Storm's End and capturing Dragonstone by being granted the ancient Targaryen stronghold as his own seat. Given the heir to the realm was often given the title Prince of Dragonstone, some would take this as Robert acknowledging Stannis as his heir until a child was born to him. Stannis, however, would take it as an insult. Stannis would also serve on the Small Council as Master of Ships. Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, was granted a pardon for killing the Mad King and would remain part of Robert's new Kingsguard. Grand Maester Pycelle and the Spy Master Lord Varys would also be pardoned. Sir Barristan Selmy, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, who had impressed Robert with his valour and honour fighting against him on the Trident, was also pardoned and retained his position as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Lord Peter Baelish, the former ward of Hoster Tully, was named as Master of Coin. However, the exact reasoning for his appointment has never been made fully clear. Some suggest that Lysa Arryn, formerly Tully, may have been an influence in Jon Arryn naming Baelish as Master of Coin. Lastly, when he came of age, Renly Joffrey Baratheon was made Lord of Storm's End and would join his brothers on the small council as Masters of Law. Lastly, Robert allowed Sir Ronald Connington to keep Griffin's Roost. Although Robert had the gold of House Connington and most of the Connington lands granted to neighbours, leaving the house extremely poor with little hope of restoring their lost wealth. Robert also replaced the skulls of the Targaryen dragons in the Red Keep's throne room with banners and tapestries depicting hunting and battles. Some would say he had the skulls ground into dust as one final insult to House Targaryen, but in truth, he had them moved into the tunnels below the Red Keep. Although peace had returned to the Seven Kingdoms, many of those who did not support Robert referred to him as the usurper, but only in secret. Few would be fool enough to speak those words too loudly or risk the wrath of Robert. Dorne never forgot or forgave that Robert did not condone the murders of Princess Elia Martell and her two younger children, Princess Rhaenys and Prince Aegon. The years after Robert took to the throne, Elia's younger brother, Prince Oberyn, began plotting a rebellion in the name of the exiled Viserys Targaryen. Lord Jon Arryn, Robert's new hand of the king, travelled to Dorne, sat down with Doran Martell, the Prince of Dorne, and ended all talks of a rebellion there and then. Regardless, Robert never did visit Dorne, and there was always an underlying tension between the kingdoms. I swear this to you, I was never so alive as when I was winning this throne, or so dead now that I have won it. And Cersei, I have Jon Arryn to thank for her. I had no wish to marry after Lyanna was taken from me, but Jon said the realm needed an heir. Cersei Lannister would be a good match, he told me. She would bind Lord Tywin to me should Viserys Targaryen ever try to win back his father's throne. Robert Baratheon to Eddard Stark. A Game of Thrones Chapter 30, Eddard 7. Though Robert had no wish to marry after Lyanna Stark's death, the king and the realm needed an heir, and Lord Jon Arryn suggested that Robert marry Lady Cersei Lannister, the only daughter of Lord Tywin Lannister, to ensure political stability and Tywin's support should Viserys Targaryen ever attempt to win back his father's throne. Robert and Cersei were married in 284 AC at the Great Sept of Baelor in King's Landing, Robert draping her with a heavy golden cloak decorated with an onyx stag. A tourney was held to celebrate the royal wedding. Gerion Lannister gave the king a gilded dagger with an ivory grip and a sapphire pommel. Robert would also name Sir Ilyn Payne as the King's Justice as a wedding gift to Tywin. Ilyn had lost his tongue years prior after making a jest at the expense of the Mad King. It has been heavily rumoured since the night in question that on their wedding night, a drunken Robert accidentally whispered Lyanna into Cersei's ear while consummating the marriage, an act that would set the tone for the marriage. While Robert performed his duty frequently during the early years of the marriage, his drinking led to him hurting Cersei during those encounters, as witnessed by many at court during this time. When she did confront him once during their first year of marriage, Robert claimed it to be the drink, and he was not personally to blame. According to Robert, he did not remember anything of those nights, but according to Cersei, Robert did recall what he did to her, but felt that pretending to have forgotten was easier than to face the truth. Over time, Robert came to Cersei's bed less frequently, not even once a year. Cersei began to loathe her royal husband, and her cold attitude towards him created a distance between them. The sad truth is that Robert remained deeply in love with Lyanna Stark years after her death, placing further strain upon the marriage. The match never really stood a chance of being a happy one. Cersei did give birth to 3 living children: Prince Joffrey, born in 286 AC, Princess Marcella, born in 289 AC, and Prince Tommen, born in 290 AC. Robert did not attend any of their births. Whenever Cersei's time was due, he left for a hunt, returning only after the babe had been born. Oddly, for Baratheon children, Joffrey, Marcella, and Tommen bore none of the typical Baratheon traits of dark hair or eyes. In fact, they strikingly took after their mother almost exclusively, with their gold hair and green eyes. A fact that would cause scandalous rumours across Westeros in years to come. But for now at least, Robert's reign was secure. While his marriage was not a happy one, it did provide 3 apparent heirs to follow Robert, or at least that was what was hoped at the time. As like the fall of House Targaryen, few could have foreseen the events that were yet to come, as Robert's newly forged peace would be a short one.